And now, without further ado, as mentioned already, we are honored to establish a link to International Geneva, where this week the Building Bridges conference took place for the second time. This is a conference that brings together the UN organizations, the private sector, the financial center of Geneva, the NGOs, and government agencies to discuss sustainable finance. And the conference is the brainchild of Patrick Odier, the president of Building Bridges, chairman of the Swiss private bank Lombard Odier, and also president of the industry association Swiss Sustainable Finance. It's an honor to have you with us. Patrick Odier, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, and great greetings from sunny Geneva to, I understand, sunny Warsaw. I'm very, very pleased to be with you today for this Polish-Swiss Innovation Day that is really exploring the financial sector and how it can be a driver to the green transformation. I'd like to first, if I may, start by thanking the Swiss Embassy in Poland for inviting me and Ambassador Fillier for hosting this discussion and facilitating what I think is the thrust also of Building Bridges, i.e. an exchange of views between all of us involved in this sustainability transition. Switzerland, as you know, has been an active actor in the field of sustainable finance for the past years. Actually, innovating was the word 3 decades ago when we started developing what became the largest community of microfinance institutions. In addition, of course, a number of impact finance institutions, blended finance institutions developed as well. And today I can say that the industry has really embedded the sustainability philosophy behind the development of the financial offering. So this is good news for all of us, and I think it was mentioned already. The news is also that while we have advanced on the financial sector side, we need the other stakeholders to do the same, and we need to talk to each other. And that's why we are indeed today, actually yesterday, we closed successfully the 2022 edition of Building Bridges that gathered roughly 2,000 participants to try to advance topics, subjects, concepts that had to do with sustainable finance efficiency. Perhaps for those of you who are not so familiar with Building Bridges, let me just in a nutshell tell you what it is. Building Bridges is indeed an initiative. It is, of course, more than an event. It's actually a true movement that was started in 2019, which consists of trying to make use of Switzerland's outstanding position in trying to gather all the international organizations and, more than that, all the NGOs and perhaps also academia around the financial sector, the real economy, if I may say, and academia to tackle and discuss first of all, the priority items to put on the agenda, and secondly, solutions that can be implemented to accelerate the transition. So basically, the mission of this initiative is to accelerate the transition to a global economic model, which is aligned, of course, with the needs of a just society and a sustainable society. And I mention both because the agenda this year has included, in particular, some of the social aspects of this transition that are, of course, of a great importance. So how do we do that? Well, we bridge these different community sectors and generations through, first of all, a summit, and then a week of workshop sessions, discussions, presentations of initiatives. Basically, this community and this week allows participants, one, to learn, and we all need to learn from each other in this respect. Two, to gather, exchange experience, and perhaps discuss potential collaboration. And three, to position or announce whether a publication, research, new initiatives, such as it's been the case already during the last 2 editions. But Building Bridges is also willing to be an international platform that really aims to shape the global sustainable financial agenda. The 2022 edition ended after 4 intense days, I must say, in discussion in Geneva, and also this is the news this year in Zurich, where I was yesterday together with the Swiss Finance Institute and Swiss Sustainable Finance. And as our world, indeed, in the present times is facing unprecedented crisis of all nature, I think the Building Bridges Week aim to explore in this difficult environment what are not only the risks, but also, of course, the opportunities and the challenges that we can take advantage of. We hosted first a high-level summit that showcased new dynamic approaches to align these financial products with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and also discussed ways to finance, to finance or to invest in sustainability and inclusive, in particular, agricultural practices. So nature was at the heart of the agenda, but let me just summarize it. The agenda was focusing first on climate-related issue in a sense that much has been done, as you all know, in this respect for the last 2, 3, 4 years. And now we are really facing implementation issues. And I think what we are interested in today to discuss is basically where are the obstacles to facilitate that implementation. I'll give you one example which comes to mind and is often discussed, probably in your country as much as in ours. The financial sector is been considered a bit ahead, perhaps, of some of the industrial sectors that would then resent a little bit the pressure from the financial sector to get information at an accelerated pace. And we have to be careful that there we don't get into a dialogue between the industrial economy and the financial economy or sector that becomes conflicting. And I think this has to do with probably education. It has to do with perhaps tools that we have to put in place to explain what kind of information the financial sector needs to allocate capital properly. And this is a step that I think we should take before it becomes too much of a tension. We were also, of course, very interested in trying to precise a little bit what do we mean by nature finance or nature-based solution. And in this respect, we, of course, got some in-depth presentation on certain aspects of this nature-based solution universe, which is creating itself at a faster pace than we could even imagine. And as you probably all know, which is more perhaps difficult to address today by our sector, by the financial sector, simply because the policy framework itself and also the metrics and measurement or methodologies that apply to that space have not yet been completely discussed and decided on. And we, of course, are expecting a lot from the COP15 conclusions, which on the political side seems to be quite difficult and challenging, but hopefully will allow us to move one step further. Once these aspects are being cleared, we will be, of course, then interested in trying to together focus on the low-hanging fruits in how to allocate capital to nature regenerating types of projects, how to innovate in that space, and I will come to it a bit later. And in this respect, I think the atmosphere of the Building Bridges discussion was really encouraging and motivating for those who are expecting here to be more active. We also addressed one aspect which is quite important to all of us, which is how do we translate the climate or nature or perhaps other sustainable aspect effect on a company or on a sector into the financial well-being of the sector and or the company, i.e. the accounting standards. And we had the pleasure of having with us Emmanuel Faber, who, as you probably know, chairs the International Sustainability Board, Standard Board, that was created by the IFRS Foundation at the end of last year. And I think this was a very good occasion to make a call for reason to not only the financial sector to try to bring together all the reflections that have been made in creating those accounting standards. As you know, they are very different from one region to the other, but also to the politicians to get united in a decision that would foster a common standard. So we also had the opportunity, last but not least, to introduce in the agenda what is something that I think will take more and more importance, which is the social consequences of this transition. Whatever the angle you take to this transition, they will be major and are major already, not only adaptation, but also direct social impact. And I think it is time to gather around the table all the necessary brains to make sure we can also here fix the societal framework in which we want to share not only the advantages but also the cost of this transition, and secondly, fix also some of the responsibilities of the industrial sector, of the economy in general, and hence allow the financial sector to allocate capital properly. This was basically the idea this year, and Building Bridges' mission is also to try to define this agenda year after year in an as pragmatic as possible way. We were lucky to have this issue with key leaders. I mentioned Emmanuel Faber. We had Paul Polman, who's probably well known to all of you. We had the chance of having an intervention of Al Gore. We also had indirectly Mr. McCartney intervening in a UNEP session. We had Margaret Culloo, responsible for finances at the WWF. And we also had social entrepreneurs such as Luis Mabulo from the Philippines, 24 years old, a Filipino young lady who has managed to develop a fantastic project encouraging and helping farmers to be effective in a country which is, of course, suffering a lot from the climate change, in particular from a meteorological point of view. So the Building Bridges Summit highlighted a number of ways to cope with these climate change's risks, and how industry can act to mitigate and absorb those risks, but also to drive progress and collaborate across sectors and countries, and to support that transition. And I think that was, as I said, quite reassuring to see that there are numbers now of collaborations and initiatives that are being taken across boundaries, and of course, in particular, due also to the current food and energy crisis. In addition to the summit, we also hosted about 68 event sessions on topics such as biodiversity, net zero, fintech, as was just discussed, gender lens investing, peace, plastic waste, greenwashing, or opportunities in emerging markets. And these Building Bridges discussions have been really enriching from all points of view, very qualitatively very important, eye-opening, and motivating. Several organizations have used actually this annual Building Bridges meeting and week to make announcements, release new research, report, or launch initiative. You will probably see them. I realize that I'm in between you and your lunch, so I won't be too long. And for instance, in Geneva, we just launched the new Nature Finance initiative, and also something that could be very pertinent to the theme of your meeting of today, the Innovate for Nature a project that both aims at to protect our nature, but also biodiversity and the rights of indigenous communities. This is a process that is now being institutionalized and will foster innovation and hundreds of innovation per year in this field to make sure that we all look at a project that can really make the difference in this respect. It was also the opportunity to release new research on the field, and for instance, the latest data from the Gender Lens Investing Switzerland were shared and revealed that the gender gap, for instance, in our country, that still remains too high with respect to the objective that were set, while showing concrete ways to address this issue through finance. And that was, of course, useful to many of the participants. Gender lens investing can lead to, as you know, direct benefit if more data, tools, and guidance are provided to asset owners, to managers, and to us generally in the financial sector. So that was a subject that was also quite interesting, and closer perhaps to the financial technicalities. Another research project yesterday was presented to better measure and report on sustainability, and that actually is a project that is being supported by the IFC and that is going to be piloted by the Graduate Institute in Geneva, basically by already having an overview of all the impact measures that exist, as you know, a bit chaotically in our universe, and trying to then put our fingers and their fingers on the metrics that will be useful to have a perhaps one day standard impact measurement tool that will allow us to be even more effective when it comes to impact investing. Finally, the Human Technology Foundation also presented its new framework of impact assessment for technologies, and that's something that was also quite innovative in the sense of a discussion that never had to take place in our Building Bridges community before. So overall, I'd say that building bridges is now more and more recognized as being a useful platform and perhaps a leader in the field of sustainable finance, convening experts of all natures, all sources, all expertise around the same tables, together with also civil society, and that want actually to use the platform to move the needle. As I said, during the 4 days, 2,000 participants, renowned experts, decision makers, corporate leaders, financial executives, activists, private investors met around the International Center of Conference of Geneva. And we also had a very, very good way to discuss with the young generation, having the Villar Institute being present and having prepared with a class of 30 all discussions before they happened, or all panels before they happened, to make sure that the youth could also express itself through ways of precise questions to the panelists. So the fact that building bridges gather an international audience, which was also online, of course, reminds us that Switzerland should continue to play its role in the global discussion on the sustainable transition. And we hope that we will continue through building bridges to be able to do so, to bridge with conferences and forums like the one you're hosting today in Poland. And we look forward to establish here also bridges to play together, that leading bridges, because alone we will not be able to do it. So we believe that we can encourage innovation, we should encourage innovation, and we hope that this Polish-Swiss Innovation Day will also offer pathways to support the transition of our economic model. So with this, I thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to just give you a few words about building bridges, and I wish you all a very good lunch and a fruitful continuation of the discussions.
Thank you very much, Patrick Odier.